welcome to our lovely future humans. And to those who are new, we are going to have some stories and a bit of messages and channeled guidance as our lovely me vehicles continue to know what is going on. So in my case, if you're new, you don't know. So as a intuitive channeler, downloader, Akashic record reader, I have had a number of the between galactic beings, ascended masters, God, they all chime in. And they have recently been chiming in more. So we are at a nice moment on our lovely planet for the 5D collective, and let's get into it. So I talked a little bit in a short or more about how those who use shadow and light as two sides of the spiritual soul is what leads to bypassing and stagnation, because they're typically using that which is a high and low frequency as if there's two sides to soul, but soul spirit is only one frequency. That's love. And what you'll find is that those are who I'm going to call 3D 4D mystics, and they are not really great at picking up on the energetic imprint, on knowing Akash, space and cosmos, or soul and self energetic imprint in their pure form, because they're not yet in a body that is navigating from their own pureness. So when you have emotions that arise, that's what their shadow stuff is, and they're charged, and then you have light, you're meant to balance it out, and that means to grow up. You use your prefrontal cortex, and that's why the 5D collective are people who are emotionally, mentally, physically intelligent, as we will have a body that's in the ventral vagal state, and we will have an integrated brain, and we will have our sense of self-owned. Okay, so that's number one, which is why it's usually going to be, once you open up to Claire, so in my experience, my foundation, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. You can read about Maria's story, a little bit of it, 14 pages. The chapter is called God is Discerning, Equanimous Love. The book is The Ways to God. It is an ebook and also publishing. I need to still work on our audio. We have audio that's not available yet, but in the meantime, it's there's 9 of us spiritual authors, so you get to hear everybody's different path. And on mine, you'll hear about how I had good Christian Catholic upbringing, and with self-agency, I never lost my way. It was never confusing, and when I moved into having Claire's, the spiritual experience, it wasn't confusing. I wasn't alone. I wasn't, oh my God, my family thinks I'm a whack job. It's not a lonely journey. What actually is irritable are the spiritual bypassers and all those who are people who need therapy, but they don't go get it, and they want to talk about good groups and bad groups. So that's what's irritating. And eventually I was able to figure out that which I had already noticed. So because of God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, one thing I know is all my brothers and sisters are love and angels. Then with my story, as I move into my 20s, I told God myself, I said, so I don't see Lucifer, but I do see a bunch of cowards, teenage boyfriend, teenage friends, a bunch of people who lied. Those are all basically, still to this day, people who are adaptive child part people are going to be fakes. It's a person who's mentally, emotionally, physically mature, authentic self people. We navigate that which is science and spirituality. So they're at odds. God is God. You can call consciousness to, or whatever words you want. Nobody's going to be offended. The ones who do get offended, that's people that I actually don't want to interact with, because they're ignorant on their emotional level, because they're also therefore ignorant on an intellectual level. So when you get all in your charges and you don't know how to handle yourself as a grown-up, because you don't know how to be equanimous, calm-centered, discerning, wise, good judgment, loving, and above all, thank you God, grounded in reality, as Sam Harris points out, I don't need to talk to you because I'm not in school, therefore I don't need to prove a thesis. I'm socializing or talking about interests, and I don't have the same cherishable beliefs, nor do I have to. The fact that you're getting upset tells me you're emotionally invested with a charge, and that you have no interest in interacting with another human being, but rather you'd want to spill your story, which is great and dandy. So what I do and what I learned is have the floor. But I'm not going to say yes or no, because I have nothing to say to a person who's ignorant, and who's not only ignorant, but in their grandiose butthole thinks they're right, like a scientist who will say that we're not real, but like a spiritual one who thinks they own all the words and that they own everything the right way. And that's why the people who are not actually honoring that which they're meant to be are disappointing, but that's none of my business, as God points out to me all the time. So you don't cast a stone on your brothers and sisters. You leave it alone, because love always wins, and unhealthy fear will have unhealthy fear surround each other, because unhealthy fear are the people who don't know how to master that which is what we're mastering, our 8th and 9th chakra and Resh. So healthy fear is amazing. Emotionally intelligent people have the laugh of Buddha, and like the Dalai Lama says, we do smile. And it's not because of we see the suffering. Yeah, we smile because that's our responsibility, as our ventral vagal state gives to others who want to smile the strength to open up their hearts and be vulnerable. And then the therapists get to do the rest, because they're out there helping anybody who wants to be in presence to go transform themselves. Then they can add to everything else, the mystical experiences that I'm talking to you about. So Jesus is the path for me. Buddha I make fun of, but he's cool too. And the galactic beings are letting me know everything's going to be okay. So don't you worry about a thing. But yes, there are energies about. And I have seen what happens, but we're going to leave that one to the side. I want to keep with the stories, although there were some messages. So hold on, let's see if I can get. So when to believe in yourself, which means that you are that luminous warrior. You got your third eye going on, you got your prefrontal, all of this. You're navigating body and ventral vagal state. Okay, so you're your own medicine. That's why you are using your human primary and secondary consciousness, your biology, in the most amazing of ways. Love yourself first. Love is not a game. That's why with our trauma stuff, we process it. I have child trauma charges. We don't project it. With our twin flames, we don't have saga. We will have tears, yes, but you have tears. I was 4, I had tears. So you don't call it laundry, and you don't actually create any kind of test. There's not a test that goes on unless you're in school. Sorcerer. I'm not a witch. I have shared that with people. They make fun of me. Witch, sorcerer, they're not the same thing. And 4D doesn't know how to describe sorcerer, and I figured out why. Because they suffer life due to the fact that they don't own their child parts. They don't go and take ownership of their emotional plane. They only use the words that I use, shadow and light. Balancing means allowing both. You equanimity people are liars. No, we're not. We're masters. On the other hand, you seem like not a master of your angry butthole, or your sad butthole, or your fairy butthole, or your surprise, disgust, or happiness butthole. So when you don't know how to access your own Venusian council, and you don't know therefore how to access your own Akashic records, and you don't know therefore how to access your own light, you like to talk about light and shadow. Yes, you're not part of the order of Melchizedek. So people who don't know how to be Dharma, they're going to keep doing karma. It's not a competition. They actually don't have the same voice. They have a voice that says it's dangerous to have no emotions. It's not true that it's inherently healthy to be enlightenment, or what was it? Non-reactive? No, it is healthy because you know how to use your prefrontal cortex. That's why it's healthy, because you also know how to be self-reflective, aware, accountable, and regulate, number 1, and therefore you can manifest from the heart. But again, you can manifest from somewhere else. Cosmic ordering is always at play. So when people are in a low frequency, it's not that they're kept away from us because they're dangerous. No, they're not dangerous. They're people who, thank you Bethany Brown and Ruth Lanius, have trauma charges, attachment wounds. They may have an armor on. They're not dead. What happens when a person who has a bunch of shame inside their body, unhealed, meets a person who has none? And I have a story for you. This is not about special gifts. These are stories that respect people. But somebody who wants to present themselves as if they know what they're talking about when they don't, because modern day therapists are not trying to imprison anyone. They're not caging you up in boxes with depression, anxiety. They're scientists who use technical verbiage. If you are so triggered by their verbiage, my question is, have you noticed how upset you are at the scientists? Kind of like when I started a nutritionist diary and I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do it. There's my 3-year-old. Okay, really? You don't know how to harness your own 3-year-old? Wow. And I get to see your 16-year-old think that your shadow and light is a badass person? Nah, I think that's called adapt the child part, fight, flight, fix, save, and basically body in modulation, which means it's distress, which means you're doing yourself a disservice. It's called bad resilience. So people who don't know how to be a part of the future humans, that's why we're future. And that's where the Pleiadians are said to be human-like beings who honor the feminine and live in an advanced way that we on Earth could also experience. Yes, they're called somatic empaths, integrated brain people. There's a bountiful of them between science, spiritual, and mystical. The ones, though, that you do hear that are not in favor of equanimity, it's again their choice. There's a reason, there's an answer. We don't have to be near them. They won't be near us. And in fact, as the sword in the rock, or as Archangel Michael, he who is like God, we don't need any cutting of the cords because they won't be presented to us and we won't be presented to them, because you will always attract ding, 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 whatever it is that you're attracted to based on your biology. But furthermore, so the story is, I am beginning to frequent a specific place, and there's this one human being who's now my friend, love him to death. He even gave me a nickname, and he's the sweetest as can be. Wisdom comes through him at times where I'm like, if only you got better. Functioning alcoholic is what he is. And he actually initially completely couldn't hear me or see me. I was like, this is not happening, because I had learned of how 5D would not be seen, and I have 4D friends. Well, in fact, sit down and relax. With my 4D friends, we are going out and they're like, oh, I want to read coffee cups. Let's read tarot. And I'm like, look, I mean, I know we're in countries that it's kind of okay to do this, but we still don't know how people would respond to this. I don't think it's ideal for us to do this here. No, come on. It's exciting. And so I'm like, okay, we're a bunch of us. If somebody wants to beat us up, at least we got a crowd going on, because I'm not afraid of my safety, but you never know. Someone can see some weird shit and they just decide they don't like it. And so we're doing the coffee cups and tarot, and the owner of the bar comes up, which ends up turning out to be a very, very smart man, meaning a man that has honor, humility, like those who are actually of our 5D collective. Anybody who doesn't have humility will be clear, whether it's science or spiritual. The ones who think that their shadow and light side are true and that they have a right to bring it to you. That's called, I have a right to bring my trauma charge projected because I want to keep scarlet letter tabs on anything and everything that I don't like. So that's a very specific and straightforward frequency. When you have a person who's insecure, it's because they're a teenage version like this. And while I'll get passionate, and I have learned, obviously, in the years, I'm 45.0 version of Maria, to master all of this is really great. It continues to get great. So the energetic imprint of God is, by the way, his timbre completely clear. Like the galactic beings, they have a whole different timbre, if you're curious. Akash, also very amazing, completely clear. The whole Akashic records, when you're not allowed to go somewhere. Angels, clear energetic imprint. Fairies, other types of alien species, our soul collective members. I have so many of them right now here, even future human Maria's here and stuff like that. So it's not confusing, it doesn't overwhelm you, and it's really fun and amazing. But one thing, you never break free will. You can't. So while scientists want to give us their proofs, and their proofs match typically that which are the basics of that spiritual journey. So becoming a full-fledged life means a securely attached, non-traumatized person who navigates your body and ventral vagal state. I'm giving you the human elements. So you have an integrated brain, your child parts are asleep, you're able to be your authentic self. So being yourself is the greatest gift that you could do to us, but it's also the greatest advice that I can give to you. Explaining to you, it means you own all your child parts. Those first 3 years are implicit memory. So that might not be some small feat. Heaven and hell, as Sadhguru shared yesterday, is not a geographical location. I got taught those words. I remember learning from my Christian Catholic catechist, the good ones, all about it. And as I grew up, I know it's not the real way, but that's not because I deny where I come from. So while those who deny where they come from because they hold on a scarlet letter, again, for people who make mistakes and for entities that hold a bunch of baggage, I find it very unfortunate because I have baggage too. So what? Because I have a past that comes with me, you're going to continuously cast a stone at me? That means you have a trauma charge and you haven't processed it, which means you haven't forgiven it, which means you have self-righteous, contemptuous buttholes, which means that those people need Terry Real and Patrick Chahan not to be on a fucking screen. But hey, then again, they can all be on a screen. I'm on a screen too. The point is that when you are not utilizing your vehicle as the messenger that you were meant to be, but you're saying that you are the one who knows, you're making it sound more and more like you're a regurgitation of books, and you're keeping it all boxed up in the same shape and form because that's the only thing you know. So you're dressing it up. If you're a vehicle and a messenger and you're understanding how it works, then you are here for all humanity, and you're not picking one book or two books or three books. Like Sadhguru, he brings it all in. That's the same thing that goes for any of those of us who have a past. So Christian, Catholic past, I just know I'm not welcomed by all, but I know that I'm welcomed by the smart ones because they know the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and God work differently. So when someone's being divisive or believing in the bad JoJo and Juju, that's an ignorant person. I can't do anything about it. I just know that they probably won't want to cross my path, which is a good thing because, better for us to not be near each other. That's all. Not because I wouldn't want to be near them, but they think that there's something wrong with a Reiki master, an Akashic record reader, tarot card reader, and stuff like that. Polyamory, monoamory. People who think there's something wrong. Nothing wrong with anyone, but people who will want to yell at each other with charges, they're continuing to not really do much to support that which is coming together. But again, divisiveness is not like we've never seen it. So long story short, the place that we're at, it goes well. The owner comes to look at what we're doing because he's like, what is going on? And this respectable human being understood when I said I don't judge people, because he's the one who told me of this story of a man and a woman who have a baby, but then they ended up, she left him. They were both drug addicts. He lit her on fire. She's good. The baby's good, but he's in jail. And I said, I'm sorry for both of them. And he turned around and asked me, what degree do you have? Because in Italy, they're aware that if you are cultured, meaning knowledgeable, it will be because you will have gone to school. Don't have to be, because that's not always the case. But people who don't read and don't expand their knowledge and don't learn new things, and they just think that fantasy as true, no. Or movie, no, you're not learning shit from any of that. Go to the History Channel, the good kind. Go to the Geography Channel. Go and then figure out which one, because we're still having a lot of that. So you know data is important because they keep us grounded. It's why, again, I'll take any pompous asshole scientist over a spiritual bypasser, because I'm not going to want to hang around with them. They're going to want to keep telling everyone who they are and how they think they know everything, and I'm just going to want to God, and he's not going to interfere, and I'm going to just need to leave it alone. So, because you don't go telling people about what they're doing, because again, it's an upset person. They're not even speaking because they're coherent. Their 0-8-year-old is leading them, and they have self-righteousness contempt, so some shit went down. At least they get it out of their chest. You see, they get it off their chest. So you let them speak. It's not trauma dumping. It's just a person who's upset. And that's why their way of interacting with the energetic imprints, with the galactic beings, with all of that, which is spirits and source, is different, because their body is not yet with a window of welcome to their own emotional plane, let alone their window of tolerance expanded. So they don't have the capacity to hold as much energy and to be a clear channel that consistently can stay on. Once instead you have the integrated brain, thanks Dr. Dan Siegel, he taught me about how it becomes a conduit, because left and right are together, they're working, they're not turning, because usually until you are working as an integrated brain, one will want to be on, or somehow they like turn each other off, like they take turns. So you get to practice. This is why the emotional, intelligent, mindful practices support with the mental intelligence too. So it's a really fun journey to be able and give you some of that, which is my experiences and more. So we'll have more of these, but the part about the 4D and the 3D, they're here for the people who won't be getting all of that integration of the brain, the body, and the ventral vagal state. And they're going to continue using what their stories are. And in fact, 4D mystic friends are still 4D because their third eye is blocked, and they chose, in fact, to not go to therapy, to not notice themselves, and to continue thinking that our soul and our spiritual self has a shadow and a light, and that equanimity is a lie. And they just basically say, spiritual bypasser, I can be, you can be all you want. You're projecting is what you're doing. So back to the other story, Bethany Brand and Ruth Lanius, one, explained to me that we're prefrontal cortexes when we're in our somatic empath, so we don't have trauma charges coming up. When we lock eyes, we activate our right mode together, which is why structurally dissociated people who have attachment wounds will flare up. So when I have a Dr. Daniel Fox explaining why I'm going to be tested by somebody who doesn't believe in kindness, and that then they are going to freak out at neutrality thinking something, I'm hiding a knife behind my back, it's because they don't know safety with a human being. So once you understand the MO, it's not about people being evil. No, they're all pathologies who need help, the ones who end up being on this Michael Stone evil scale. Now, back to the other friend who's not any of this, but just so you can understand, someone wanting to blame an entity, a demon, energy vampire, and continue with those, it's like when they called epilepsy the wrath of the gods. So they're ignorant completely. And they're choosing to reject. In fact, one of the questions I asked this man that does know of the specific institution, I won't mention it right now, but I asked, why are they denying decentralizing the self and religious experiences in neuroscience with something like a Patrick McNamara who can explain every single bit of how this is not demonic possession. Oh, God doesn't need science, Maria. That's not the point. So this is a story that these human beings who want to call themselves leaders are giving to people. So when I see somebody saying they're a leader, and then I hear that they give this, and you're not a leader, you're a person who apparently doesn't know how to think clearly. When I see someone on a TV pointing to Sadhguru and saying people need something to believe in, what do you think you are? And why are you pointing to man? We're on the same page, the spiritual ones. So when I see true spiritual ones, it's the Dalai Lama. We're all here for the same reason. That's what a leader of spirituality will do. So spiritual masters, enlightened ones, mystics, in a 5D frequency, Akashic record readers, anything of this, they will not be using any of the divisiveness. The ones who want to own the words, give you, the way to higher up, whatever, and will continue. But this is where they're clearly still needing to grow up. They don't have to grow up if they want to stay their adaptive child part. Their 16-year-old version, they're going to continue rising up from the ashes, falling down, and having their same type of, because they flip a switch, they flip-flop. So every year while we expand with Dharma, they're going to continue to play out their karma. And karma is on a wheelhouse because it's a 0-8-year-old. So they're going to get somewhere, wherever it is that their 0-8-year-old decided they're going to get. And more than just that, but that's that subconscious that's ruling them, and the gut is still ding ding calling to everything that their first 3 years of life, which they're ignoring, is. So you don't unwire, you actually learn to get into good resilience at some point with a good therapist, because you don't do any of the helping yourself to reintegrate those child parts by yourself. You need the science, you need the psych education, because you need to stop dehumanizing it and distancing yourself and trying to be away from your emotional body, because that's how scary it is. As Patrick Tan points out, the fetal position is the first position for anybody who goes to therapy. And I understand, because that's when you get your emotional body back online. And I can understand, because I know my 3-year-old, she just doesn't need to be owned, because she's already owned, meaning she's already online. And that's why when Sue Martin was doing this, I'm like, oh my God, all the 3-year-olds, leave them alone. They're sucking their life out of them. Oh my God, that's so sad. No, and then I said, oh, scientists, they figured it out. Yay, they're saving them. All the children are saved now. And that's how it works. So they can save all the 3-year-olds. So my friend who couldn't see me, literally, I talked in this guy's face. I'm like, this is not possible. Bethany and Brandon Ruthlanius gave me the answer. When somebody has so much shame that comes up, they can't. So it's called compartmentalization. They don't look at you. And so eventually they looked at me, and eventually we became friends. And then I said, okay, with the science, I need to be careful where I look, and be like, why aren't you looking in my eyes? You need to look in my eyes. That means you're confident. And I said, I learned that some people have trauma stored, and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So I'm trying to use the knowledge that I gained versus what our one culture or two will have said. And by the way, there are some places where you're not meant to look in each other's eyes because it's disrespectful. So really, it's not about actually a one law and a one rule. See, there's no one size fits all. But at the end of the day, grown-ups don't get into arguments about this either. It's like, okay, we have different cultures, different ways of doing things. We can bring it together. We can learn about differences. We don't need to be yelling at each other. Emotionally mature people, we're easily able to tango, even when we don't know what we're saying. That's why we're curious, and that's why humility. So curiosity and humility come with emotionally, mentally, physically intelligent people who will be back here, and we'll have more stories on lovely energetic imprints and souls and galactic beings. And yes, everything's going to be great and dandy. Don't you worry. The people who are in different charges. Well, again, it's not necessary to talk about that, but I already knew the timeline, so I know where we're at. Anyways, we'll be back with more. Have a good one.